and gentlemen, hello there. Welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show, or as it's known in some parts of the world, l'émission de MrWarrenHayes. It is my pleasure to welcome you here at the program right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes on today, November 28, 2019. It is Thanksgiving in the United States of America. And I want to say hello to everyone watching in the United States of America right now who are taking time off of perhaps spending some time with family, friends, or cooked goods to, for some reason, come and listen to me talk about wrestling. No, I know why you're here. It's because I'm charming, I'm delightful, I'm a hoot. That's what everyone needs on Thanksgiving. Of course, I have to make this about myself. But honestly, I hope everyone's having a wonderful Thanksgiving while the rest of the world keeps on plugging, tries to make everything work as smoothly as it does every other day of the year. America, we're keeping the boat afloat while you're gone. Just saying. But hey, what a fantastic evening we have in store tonight, and it is only greater because of the addition of wonderful, wonderful people who have come here live, like I said, from wherever they are. You Thanksgiving celebrators in the United States, Canadian well-wishers, British hopefuls, what am I talking about? Anyway, wherever, look, there's a whole bunch of people here live on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes right now. As we record live every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And who, dare you ask, who are these fantastic people we speak of? Well, we have Tim, who's in the chat. Blaine Mendoza, the world's most handsome mod, is here. Daniel Price as well. Robert Larry. We have Carlos, who's here as well. We have Scott Frame, first time in the chat tonight. Scott, welcome. We have Hawkeye, who's eating deer jerky. That sounds like a treat. I wish I had some deer jerky right now. We have Benoit, who's here. Anthony Gaston as well. Kristen Ashley, who's joined us in the chat as well. Mr. Fretz. Talk about a packed house. This is what you call a packed house. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. Thank you, everyone, again, for being here tonight, and I appreciate it. All of you you're fantastic. You're shimmering. You're gold. You're gold is what you are. Gold. Always believe in your soul. You've got the power to know you're indestructible. Always believe in you are gold. I'm glad you got to return. Something you got to learn. You're indestructible. Oh, wait. There's not enough Spandau Ballet talk. Not enough Spandau Ballet talk. Really, really not. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Where are my notes with all of this silliness? Okay, hey, MrWarrenHayes Show is also available on podcasts in case you're not watching this live right now. YouTube, it is on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And if you are watching on YouTube right now, give it a thumbs up. And if you're listening to this on your podcast app, give it a review, a like, a star, whatever you want to do. Whatever you decide to do to show some support for the MrWarrenHayes Show is fantastic. Because support makes the channel grow. It's just as simple as that. The more people like it, the more the people will see it, and it'll just be amazing. I'm going to be on Fightful tomorrow evening, doing the SmackDown post show, as I usually do on Fridays. However, Sean Ross Sapp is not going to be there. He is, he's trying to, basically what he told me is he's trying to do every Black Friday sale on every time zone between the Pacific and the other side of the Pacific. I don't know what I'm talking about. He's not going to be there. I'm going to be hosting it, and I'm going to be joined on analysis by the one and only Kelsey of the Two-Face podcast, Super Kicking It with Kelsey. She's going to be joining me tomorrow on Fightful, on the Fightful main channel. So be sure to tune in. It's going to be different from anything else we've done on Fightful so far. I'm really happy Kelsey's going to be there because she's fun. She knows her stuff. Brilliant, and she knows her stuff, and she's brilliant. Plus, she also knows her stuff, and she's brilliant. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a great time. Also, and then of course I'll be back next Wednesday for the Wednesday Night Wars podcast with Sean and Alex. Good times all around. Don't forget also to visit belltobells.com. That's BELLTOBELLES. Regarding women's wrestling. That's the best place you can go for all your women's wrestling coverage. Just head on over there. It is fantastic stuff. And we were also talking about, supporting the Mr. Warren Hayes show through clicks, the likes, and subscriptions and whatnot. But you can also join my Patreon. That is also a fantastic way to show support for what I do. You can check out the tiers there. There's two tiers. There's basically one tier where you show support for everything I do here on a weekly basis. And then if you want more top-notch content, you go for the extra tier, the Power Pals tier. And then you can you get more content basically. So go check that out. And and I'm telling you tonight, you are going to check it out regardless of whether you're a Patreon or not, because tonight, every Thursday after the main Mr. Warren Hayes stream, I do a post stream for patrons only. Tonight I'm offering it up for free as a free preview of the type of post stream that I deliver for patrons. So if you want to check it out, it's a free preview of what you get on Patreon tonight. And on the docket for that tonight, I'm going to be talking about this whole Erica Gimbel story. The fake WWE stylist Twitter account at first we didn't know it was fake until Kristen Ashley, along with yours truly, decided to debunk it. So I'm gonna talk about that a little more tonight on the investigation that Kristen and I did, how we got to the bottom of it, why we did it, and how everyone sort of has to kind of be vigilant because it's a bit of a cautionary tale at the same time. So join me after this stream over on Patreon, patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. The video is unlocked. It's already there. And it'll be streaming later. Gonna recap this crazy story that Kristen and I were involved in. Lots of great stuff waiting for you. But in the meantime, there's lots of great stuff right here on the Mr. Warren Hayes show, such as the weekly wrestling inspection. Yeah, it's gonna be WWE heavy tonight, folks. I think it's a bit of a given. I don't think anyone was expecting anything else because it was a big weekend of WWE wrestling. There was a lot of WWE wrestling stuff. I want to say hello to Michael Stepney, who just jumped into the chat. Ryan Smith is here as well. Good to see everyone here. So let's just get to it. Let's start talking about. I'm gonna start straight off the bat talking about Survivor Series weekend, and to be completely transparent with everyone, I'm gonna give a cool beans over to the entire weekend. It hasn't happened in a long time. Well, in a while. And I think everything WWE had been doing and putting together led into such an exciting, compelling weekend of pay-per-view action. Because not only did we have the Sunday pay-per-view, we had the takeover the night before. And the whole build-up to Survivor Series this year was really, really good. And I think that overall, in a general sense, the payoff to the Survivor Series pay-per-view weekend was really, really good. I was I was entertained this weekend. In chat, please let me know what you guys thought about it. We had some fantastic wrestling, first and foremost. And it really doesn't happen all that often. But then on top of that, we had some unpredictability, we had some drama, we had some great storylines kicking off, and that continued on this week. This was really prime WWE. Was everything perfect? Of course not. It wasn't perfect, far from it. I wouldn't call it perfect, but it was damn entertaining. And I leave Survivor Series weekend with much with a lot of with good feels and good memories. There's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to remember here. There are moments here that we are going to carry, that when we sit down and retro review these in 10 years from now, we're going to be like, oh yeah, this is the pay-per-view where that happened. Such as Tommaso Ciampa air raid crashing Adam Cole off the top of the War Games cage through a table. That's something that is going to be remembered. That was crazy. We are going to remember Pete Dunne versus Adam Cole the very next night. Hell of a match. Hell of a match. Those are things that are going to stick. I thought both War Games matches were good, if we're going over not just a few elements here and actually start talking about more details. But I thought both War Games matches were good, but I'll be transparent with y'all. I thought the women's match was better because it had more drama to it. By God, if you did not think that Dakota Kai's turn was perfect and was wonderfully executed, and I'm not just talking about on Saturday night, I'm talking about the whole lead-in, the weeks beforehand, where she was set aside from the War Games, where she tries to help Mia Yim out and she can. It was just such good stuff and a fantastic payoff. And the expression of Candice LeRae and Rhea Ripley in the cage as Dakota Kai is destroying Tegan Nox. And they can't do anything, they're in the cage, and their facial expressions were amazing. This was so good. We talked about Adam Cole and Pete Dunne, who put on the match of the night. That was amazing. It was fantastic stuff, and I'm really glad Pete Dunne got onto the main card. I thought it was great. On Survivor Series, I thought the men's triple threat team, the men's the triple threat tag team match was good. Thought Strong versus Styles versus Nakamura was badass. I'm glad Roddy got the win. It was really good. And I really liked the men's Survivor Series match as well. All of the NXT guys got a moment to shine. And what was really great, and this is always what I like about, or not always what I like, because this was kind of a first time, but what I really liked here was seeing them tease all these possible matches with guys from different brands staring down the NXT dudes, and you're like, oh my goodness, we could actually get this. I didn't realize how much I wanted Matt Riddle and Randy Orton until I saw both of them in the ring chatting and exchanging glares, or Tommaso Ciampa and Randy Orton, who are basically two characters cut from the same cloth. Very cerebral, the guys who plan their stuff out, very methodical, evil guys. I loved it. And it was all about putting NXT over as a brand. This is something that a lot of us fans have been asking for years now. Having NXT be a part of Survivor Series to sort of mix it up, and I'm glad they did. I think there's room for NXT matches on main roster pay-per-views now. I don't think it should be just once a year that NXT ends up on main. If they do consider NXT to be a brand on equal footing as Raw or SmackDown, then we need to have at least one NXT match on it. At least the NXT title. That just makes sense at this point, because they are treating it as an equal brand. Well, then it should be on the main brand pay-per-views as well. I like the women's. I like certain things about the Women's Survivor Series match. I didn't think this was a great pay-per-view for the women, by the way. I didn't think it was that good. The Women's Survivor Series match was fine. I thought it was overbooked to hell. It was really, really grotesquely overbooked. I thought Daniel Bryan and The Fiend was okay, nothing more than that. And I thought the main event wasn't good. I didn't think it was good. And I don't know what happened. And I don't know who produced this match. Like, I have no idea what happened, but nothing clicked. Like, nothing worked. And it just shocks me because of the level of talent that was in the ring. I don't know. Let's see what the chat is talking about all this before I move on from the Survivor Series here. Carlos says, Rhea Ripley, Keith Lee, and Adam Cole are MVPs. You goddamn right. Especially Adam Cole. And I'm not taking anything away from Rhea Ripley. And I'll even throw in Shayna Baszler in here, because she did her role perfectly. She played her role to a T, setting herself up as a credible contender and credible champion, I should say. It was fantastic. Keith Lee shone. So did Tommaso Ciampa. But yeah, the big stories here are going to be Rhea Ripley and Adam Cole. And Adam Cole, man, the past 2-3 weeks, holy crap. He got a gigantic rub. Benoit says a certain dentist was worried on cam about after the bump, talking about the air raid crash that Tommaso Ciampa gave to Adam Cole on War Games. Yeah. Did you know that Britt Baker's a dentist? Did you hear about that? Blaine says Adam Cole versus Pete Dunne match of the weekend. Yeah, I guess I'd agree with that. Carlos says Rhea Ripley is made. And Robert Larry says, I disagree with that, Warren. Keep NXT with their format. And I'm not saying that NXT should not have takeovers anymore. I'm just saying that they should be showcased and added as well to the main lot of pay-per-views. Definitely not saying to get rid of the takeovers. Takeovers are special. Let's keep the cool beans train rolling. Or should I say rolling? Wait a second. What? Warren, you're giving cool beans to something Seth Rollins did? Yes. The heel turn. Jason PS3, how you doing? My God. They're doing it. They are not insisting on pushing Seth Rollins down our throats as a babyface. They're not giving him the Roman Reigns treatment. They're actually plugging themselves into the audience. They're listening to what people are saying. They're reading what Seth Rollins is posting on Twitter. They're realizing he's a jackass. So let's have him play the jackass. I thought the opening segment of Raw was fantastic. And you guys know how much I care very little about opening segments on my wrestling show, but this was perfect. Coming off of the loss at Survivor Series, because Team Raw lost, they are not the supreme brand of the brand supremacy. And Seth gets into the ring, and he has the locker room surrounding the ring, and he's dressed up. He has a man bun. And he says, he basically starts motivating the troops, or at least like, guys, you fucked up. And essentially what he does is he gives a rah-rah speech. Now, if you've been on Twitter over the past few, you've definitely seen the reports that a certain Wrestling Observer made regarding Seth Rollins having given a rah-rah speech in the locker room, which Seth Rollins instantly went after Meltzer on Twitter and said, I never said that, get your facts straight, and actually commented to Sean Ross Sapp saying, I never gave a speech. I never spoke up during the meeting. There was a whole to-do. Felt like people were just piling on Seth for the sake of piling on Seth. I loved it because this was a rah-rah speech, and I would have really liked it if they had called it as such. Seth would have been like, well, I'm going to give you guys a rah-rah speech right now. I would have loved that. Seth had some great lines here. He says that everyone sucked here. There's CM Punk chants that happen. Of course, we're in Chicago. And he says, CM Punk tried to get him here, but he's sitting in LA behind a desk talking about change he's afraid to make. Thought it was a great line. He talks down to Randy Orton saying that he was the weak link. He talks down to Charlotte saying that she's no Flair. Both of them walk away, by the way. They're like, I don't have anything to do with you. He talks down to AOP, to Rey Mysterio for dropping the ball during his match with Brock Lesnar. And he said, you most of all, Rey, you left all of us down. Which I like because I like that little thing because Seth, in his opinion, when he won the Universal title, you remember he did it for all of us, right? To have a champion we could be proud of, blah, blah, blah. So when Brock won again, he was like, Anyway, the whole locker room starts to empty out when they realize that Rollins is just a dick. However, one man is left behind, standing in the ring, and that is Kevin Owens, who, by the way, is also one of these moments that we are going to remember from this weekend. Kevin Owens' pop when he came out at War Games. The place came unglued. Like that was monstrous. That was crazy. So KO's in the ring. Seth calls him lazy. He says it's his, he says he loves Raw, he loves this show. And he says this is all coming from a good place, but Kevin, you'll never be Seth Rollins. And KO at some point, you think he's going to respond, but he responds with a stunner, and he takes Seth out. I thought this was fantastic. I really do. And they're setting up a very interesting feud here. Because on one hand, you want to build they're going to want to build Seth as a heel, and they clearly want Owens to come across as a big time babyface as well. I mean, with the reactions that he's been getting over the past couple of weeks, not just at War Games, even at Survivor Series and the weeks leading up, how much more is WWE going to sit on this guy? Because people love him. And with reason, he's such a good all-around performer. He's a hell of a promo, and he can do things that you don't imagine a guy like him can do. That's what's crazy. This is a great, great promo, and I can't wait to see where this leads us. Let's see here. Blame Mendoza says KO is the most relatable babyface. Love that guy. That is correct, Blaine. They did a good job at making him relatable. He really is just like a guy, and he loves his family and he takes care of his family. But the unfortunate thing is he'll never be able to have friends again. He's the friend killer. He has no more friendships. Let's have some more cool beans. If you were surprised that I gave Seth Rollins something Seth Rollins has done, cool beans, how about me giving some cool beans to the Lana Lashley Rusev angle? Because that's what we're going to do. To be fair, though, it's not as much the angle, the whole sleeping around, I'm having your baby, I'm not having your baby, we're divorcing, we're getting restraining orders. It's not that bullshit. But this, on Monday, was quite possibly the best entry in the Lana saga that we've had so far. Rusev gets served a restraining order. So he can be within 90 miles, 90 days, 90 minutes, 90 years of Lana. But he shows up at the arena nonetheless, starts beating up on Bobby Lashley. Police arrive, they handcuff him, they restrain him, they take him up the ramp. But he's been brawling with Bobby Lashley, and he pushes Bobby Lashley off the stage and then drops a lighting structure, like a truss, on top of Lashley. And I thought this was great because he was restrained the whole time, like he was handcuffed, and he had this huge grin on his face. He was enjoying it, and it was just enough chaos to be really, really interesting. I really dug the segment. And it's probably because no one was making out, probably because there wasn't anything overtly salacious or, insulting to my intelligence. Maybe it's because wrestling people were doing wrestling things and I liked it and I thought it was fun. Maybe, just maybe. It was a cool segment. I thought Rusev looked fantastic. He's getting himself over with this because Rusev is special. Because Rusev knows what he's doing. He's special. I really dug this. We're going to downgrade this a bit, and we are going to give some warm soda to Rey Mysterio winning the United States title. Now, there's a bit to unpack here, because I don't want you to think that I'm displeased with Rey Mysterio getting a title, because that's not the case. You'll see it, right? The warm soda is a mixture of stuff. One of the mixtures here is Humberto, because this was supposed to be AJ Styles versus Humberto Carrillo, but Carrillo gets taken out by the OC straight off the bat. Now I'm thinking, and Chad, I want you to chime in on this. I'm thinking Vince is done with Humberto Carrillo. I think he gave him some high-profile matches, and Vince is like, "No, we're done with this kid." Because there's no other reason why you do this, why you just yank him away like that. They've done this with Ali, with Cedric Alexander, with Buddy Murphy. They put them in, they put these wrestlers into situations where with high-level talent, and Vince looks at what they're able to do and then I guess decides what to do moving forward. But I think for now, whatever push that Humberto was supposed to get, I don't know. I think it's going to be dialed back significantly. That's my gut feeling. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not surprised, because as much as Humberto Carrillo is a talented wrestler and can do wonderful lucha things, quote unquote, he doesn't connect with the audience. He just doesn't. He's lacking that capacity to reach over into the audience and clasp them. Sure, he's a high flyer, well-versed in lucha, but there are so many high flyers in WWE right now. People like him who can do the things he do and do the things that he does and other things as well, that are much, much more charismatic than he is. And I'm just thinking about Isaiah Swerve Scott, just off the top of my head. Angel Garza's another one. Hell, Raul Mendoza. If we're talking about similar styles of wrestling here. You don't need to hang on to Humberto Carrillo when you have much more complete packages. Hell, Lio Rush. Lio Rush. There's no reason for Humberto to be getting a push because there are much more complete packages already on the roster that could use the elevation and that deserve it and could make it happen. Jason PS3 in the chat says came up too soon for him. Carlos says Humberto felt like a hot shot. Go to NXT. I'll be curious to see what they do with him moving forward. They did put a lot. There was a push for him. There was a lot of stock put into him, especially on 205 Live, where he was. They gave him sit down interviews. They really positioned him as a threat to the cruiserweight champion. But honestly, there's just something that just doesn't connect with him. So anyway, basically the match is off. AJ's in the ring. He starts mouthing off with the OC, and that brings out Ricochet. That brings out Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, and Rey Mysterio, who essentially all want to come challenge for the U.S. title. Now, I have a problem with this. I have a problem with this on two levels. The first problem that I have with this, I didn't like the setup of these promos. One guy comes out with a microphone, says his lines, either gets a hometown pop or gets the hometown heat, and then the next guy comes out and it's rinse and repeat 4 times. There was nothing really interesting that was said here. That's my first problem with it. The second problem that I have with it, we just came out of a weekend where we had War Games matches, we had elimination matches, we had triple threat matches, we had triple threat tag team matches. And you're giving us another fatal 4-way tonight. Oh my God. That sort of bummed me out. And then Ricochet decides to make the match. All 4 of us for the chance to fight AJ Styles. And Ricochet makes the match. And I'm like, what? What? How did Ricochet get the authority to do this? It's like Miz, who made the championship match for Survivor Series between Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt. It's the Miz who made the match. What, do these guys have special cards? Like, do they have like a special authorization? Do they have like level 2 passes? I don't know. This is the kind of thing that doesn't make sense to me, guys and gals, and you know, I don't like that. I don't like it when my wrestling doesn't make sense. I want my wrestling to make sense. There's someone on Twitter earlier this week who pointed out, and I don't remember who, but echoed something that I have said in the past, and even my boy JPQ, wish he was here to back me up on this, but he's enjoying Thanksgiving with his family. My boy JPQ backed me up on this as well. Most television shows will reward you as a viewer for watching, for paying attention, for being invested in the characters. And WWE overtly does not do that. It does not reward you. It did not reward you for being a Kofi Kingston supporter over the past 5-6 months where he had the championship. Because they never gave you, as a viewer, a proper ending to his storyline. They never gave you a thank you, fans, for backing up this storyline. They just made him lose the title in 30 seconds and then never spoke about it again. And that's the thing. This is the kind of stuff that bothers me, because this is the kind of stuff that we, as intelligent human beings, are supposed to be able to do, and that is think for ourselves and realize that wrestlers making matches doesn't make sense, especially in an environment where you're supposed to have authority figures, where there's drafts. There was a draft a few weeks ago, so there is people in authority making these decisions. Do I want an authority figure back? Yeah, if it means that spontaneous matches like this will be ratified by someone in a position of power. Absolutely. Otherwise, don't have off the cuff matches happen like this. Or explain to me why Ricochet and The Miz can make matches. And why, if the wrestlers can make matches, why hasn't Eric Rowan challenged? Why hasn't Eric Rowan challenged, or not even challenged, but made a match against AJ Styles? Why didn't he do that before? It just boggles my mind. Anyway, nonetheless, here there was a funny moment in this segment where the OC, when Ricochet says that the match should happen, and AJ is with the Gallows and Anderson, and he's like, "Nah, this isn't going to work, right?" And Luke Gallows is like, "Well, you know what? This is actually a pretty good idea. I'd like to see this match." Carl Anderson is like, yeah, actually, they're both like, sure, let's make this happen. And AJ's like, all right, fine. So they have the match. It was a good match. I thought this was fun. I loved the interaction between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. Orton, I think, he knows he's got nothing left to prove. I think he's just in it to be himself and have a good time in the ring. You could tell in here that he was just drinking it all in. And Rey Mysterio wins the match with a springboard pin, and AJ is delighted about this because the night before he was in a match with Brock Lesnar. So AJ's like, sure, let's make this happen. The whole thing had a great build. It really did. The whole match built up wonderfully to the conclusion. Rey's knee gives out during the match, and Styles works on it. Rey also hits a flying senton, a code red, and a 619. But it's Randy Orton who comes in to help out with an RKO because the OC sort of screwed with them during the Fatal 4-Way. So this was his way to get a little payback. And Rey Mysterio is the U.S. champion, and he celebrates with Dominic on Dominic's shoulders, which is cool. I mean, give Rey Mysterio a title for sure. He's been doing some of his best work in years. In 2006, I think we were all begging for Rey to retire. Look at him now. And he's 44 years old. It's crazy the level on which he's still wrestling. It's bananas, really. But it's 'cause this is still a warm soda here. I still think Rey should have won the Universal title. And the way they booked it on Survivor Series on Sunday, where Dominic ran in to tease the throwing of the towel, pulling out the chairs, going after Brock, Rey and Dominic double teaming him, the frog splash, everything. They had in their hands, and I mean they, when I say they, I mean WWE, they had a moment right there. They had a moment on their hands that they failed to capitalize on. And WWE loves their moments. Like talking about WrestleMania moments and this type of the things that people will remember. They had one there on Sunday. Rey Mysterio, who's been telling us for weeks, I might retire, I might be done, I don't know if I can do it anymore. He had the entire audience behind him. They should have changed the ending of the match on the fly. It would not have hurt Brock Lesnar. It would have elevated Rey Mysterio. Everyone would have been talking about it the next night. Everyone would have tuned into Raw. Are you kidding me? This was so well done, but they didn't pull the trigger on it. Instead, they give him the U.S. title, which is fine too. I mean, I can't. Like I said, I'm not sore that Rey lost, that Rey won the U.S. title. It's more like, to me, I'm like, what a goofy outcome to all of this. Aaron J's fan, by the way, hello, says the refs are the closest things to authority now. And Anthony Gaston says, I like Humberto, but get rid of the Ultimo Dragon cape. And so there we go. So let's keep the warm soda going here, because we're going to move on to the Wednesday night shows, and I'm going to give a warm soda to both Wednesday night shows this week, the Wednesday Night Wars this week. As much as last week I was freaking out because I thought we were blessed. Last week on NXT, it started with Becky Lynch coming out on NXT, and meanwhile you had Nick Jackson and Phoenix on AEW, and I was like, my Christ, we're spoiled. And this week, I thought both shows weren't bad by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think Dynamite or NXT were bad shows, but they were not their strongest showings. This was not their best foot forward on either side. I thought they were both very middling shows. You can draw very, very clear comparisons. You can on both shows had two great to excellent matches, and the rest sort of all like fell into it. So yeah, Wednesday Night Wars. But let's move back over Everything Pro Wrestling. How you doing? Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is cool beans. And so was Jericho's opening segment on AEW Dynamite. I mean, it was so crazy, kooky, over the top. So many callbacks to the Festival of Friendship as well. There's so many cues with the artwork in the ring, the gift giving. I loved the life-size cutout of Guevara and Jericho hugging. That was great. I thought the whole thing was really fun. I thought it was a fun segment from Jericho and company. His father, Ted Irving, in the ring, getting hometown sports heel heat, shitting on the Blackhawks. I thought that was great. But you know what put this over the top, folks? Soul Train Jones being in the ring. And it's hilarious because I read an article today where Soul Train Jones is talking about being on AEW last night, and saying in the interview how important it is for wrestlers, to be able to talk, and go, and talk from the heart and say their own things without always having a script. And which I thought was hilarious, because last night he had his notes in his hand. He was reading off of them, and he was actually flubbing through them. I thought it's the most Virgil thing as far as comments go. Virgil Vincent, it's the most Vincent thing. Soul Train Jones, the mascots, Justin Roberts getting beat up. It was fun. Small caveat. Tiny. This was an 18-minute segment. It was a bit long in the tooth, if you ask me. Especially for a show like AEW Dynamite, which sort of takes pleasure in starting up with matches every week. It was a little strange. It was a little strange. J.S. Brown in the chat says, did I say hello to you, J.S. Brown? I don't remember. But hello. He says, as a Preds fan, I'm always for anyone crapping on the Blowhawks. Ben Parizet says, and Dasha did a great job for the rest of the evening. That's right. She took over on ring announcement duties. And Aaron J's fan says, let's get the $1 Million Man in AEW to make an appearance. I'm not sure I want to see them paired up again. But hey, why not? Sure. They've been getting legends and so on and so forth. Let's go back to some warm soda here. Emi Sakura and B Priestley defeating Shida and Chris Statlander. I'm just a little bit puzzled here. I like Emi Sakura as much as the next fellow, but the commentary does a good job putting over the experience that she has and what she's done over the past years, decade plus that she's been wrestling. But the thing is you in the ring 3 ladies who are clearly part of the future of this company, if not Chris Statlander being a talent that is so well-rounded and versed, who has wrestled everywhere on the independent circuit despite her picking up wrestling only 3-4 years ago. She's fantastic. So's B. Priestley. She's a machine. And look, everyone here is fantastic. If you're putting matches, bear with me, and I'm going to try to not contradict myself. If you're putting women's matches on Dark, which is okay, I'm okay with that. But if you're going to put women on Dark, don't squirrel away don't go squirreling away your big swoles in there. Keep your younger, hungrier, talented women on the main show, on Dynamite. Take Emi Sakura, put her on Dark, and let her wrestle with the women there as well. Because, like I've said before, there's a lot of very inexperienced women in the women's division in AEW right now. They need good, strong, experienced hands like Sakura to help them evolve, improve, get better in the ring. If you don't have them wrestle with the best, no one will ever improve. So I'm kind of wondering why we're insisting on putting Emi forward on Dynamite rather than the other younger, hungrier talent that they're just signing. Get Shauna back out there. And she's been wrestling for a long time. And not only does she translate well, and she's very, very good at what she does, she has the experience to help carry people. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. The match was good. I like the match. It's just curious to me. And plus, you have your number one contender in the women's division who loses in this tag team match. She didn't take the pin. Statlander did, but it's all very strange. All very strange. Benoit says Sakura's Freddie Mercury gimmick is more suited for babyface situations. Yeah, it's like what? No one thinks Freddie Mercury is a heel. What are you talking about? Carlos says that Chris Statlander is the galaxy's greatest alien. Aaron Jace fans wonders what planet she's from. Robert Larry says AEW needs Tessa Blanchard and Jordan Grace ASAP. Benoit says they need Mercedes Martinez. And Kristen Ashley says anyone would be lucky to have Mercedes. I don't know why she hasn't been signed anywhere. WWE had her. And they didn't have anything to do for her. Blows my mind. So from warm soda to some hot trash. I didn't give out a lot of hot trash tonight, but I'm going to give some hot trash to a segment here. Some hot trash to the Butcher, the Blade, the Bunny, the Butcher. It's the Blade. It's the Bunny, the Butcher, the Blade, the Butt. What the hell was that? Not just what I just did here. What was that debut? I mean, it was a very awkward, cringy moment. Hang on, let me start this over again. It was an awkward moment that was made cringe by Excalibur's reaction. That was out of the ordinary. Cody Rhodes getting jumped by these random dudes that we don't know who they are, come out from the ring. The blade comes out, and that's all that can come out of Excalibur's mouth, and he's hyped. Then the Butcher comes out from under the ring, like through the tarp. And Excalibur's having conniptions. And then Allie comes out back in her bunny outfit. But no one knew who they were. No one knew who they were. And the thing is that the Blade and the Butcher are guys who work the indie scene. They haven't been around for that long. They've been around for maybe 3 to 4 years in about itself. The Blade is as a team. I mean, the Blade is Braxton Sutter. He used to wrestle in Impact, and the Butcher is a guy named Andy Williams, and they've worked for Beyond Wrestling, Bar Wrestling, Blackcraft Wrestling, and apparently Braxton Sutter is married to Allie. And it's not that I don't like having tag teams in AEW. The AEW tag team is super deserving and fantastic, and as long as it keeps growing, I'm okay with it. I think it's AEW's selling point, quite frankly. But it's just the segment here was so Dark Order-ish. I didn't quite understand what they were doing. No one quite knew who they were, and it was just really put over. It just got cringed because of Excalibur. I mean, let's see what happens. I mean, I'm not shooting them down. I'm not saying what a shit addition to the tag team. That's not it. It's just the segment was really, really poorly executed. I don't see. People knew who Santana and Ortiz were. And there's probably a handful of people who knew who the Blade, the Butcher are. The Bunny! Alliteration. Like Alex Pulowski was saying on the Fightful, on the Wednesday Night Wars podcast last night. He said, hire Marty Scurll and put him in to lead this faction here, and then you'd have the Beak, the Blade, the Butcher, and the Bunny, and your alliteration keeps going. And someone on Twitter was saying today, add Hangman to it. Well, you can't add Hangman to it because you lose the alliteration. But then call him the Buckaroo. And it all works. Oh, that's weird. Carlos says, Ali makes sense if you've seen Masters of the Universe. Aaron Jace fan says, the Butcher sounds like a serial killer. Well, I think that's what they kind of look like Victorian era serial killers, you know, just maniacs. Well, we'll see how this goes, right? I want to say hello to Ray Death Ray. Just jumped into the chat. I'm going to move along. Let's get some cool beans to Omega versus Pac. Again, another great match between these two. I loved Pac kicking out of doing a kip up after eating a Kataro Crusher. God damn, that looked good. But then he ate a snappity snap dragon suplex. Pac also hits a super Falcon Arrow, which was crazy. And Omega gets the win after some pin reversals after he tries to get the one-winged angel on Pac but can't do it. I like the ending here. I like these surprise endings where, the big moves aren't doing it, but the smaller, sneakier moves hit it. It kind of adds this level of unpredictability to a match where it's like a match can end just about any time here. I like this. Pac and Omega work really, really well together. This was a great match. It was the best match on Dynamite. I'm really excited to see what they're going to be doing with Pac because he's been on a losing streak. This is part of Omega's redemption arc, I guess, but this was good. Hard hitting. All sorts of big moves. Like they were just laying into each other with their big power offense real early. I dug this a lot. A lot. And you know what else was cool beans? The Dark Order video. I thought, as much as I liked last week's video, as much as I liked last week's video, I thought this one, this week, was an improvement. It was even better. I love the atmosphere of it, this very Black Mirror-ish kind of environment, very familiar, but also very unsettling. A little David Lynchy, dare I say. David Lynch-esque. I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved Evil Uno giving his talk unmasked, but the camera angles were like positioned so that we didn't see his full face. It's really good. I dug it. I dug it a big time. And faithful viewers will remember a few weeks ago when I posited, and I had a little segment on this, that I felt that the Dark Order was AEW's first real bungle. That I felt that they had messed up the Dark Order, who are a fantastic tag team. I keep telling you about it every time I get a chance. Super Smash Bros. On the independent circuit. Fantastic team. And, you know, I called them out. I said, well, this is probably their first creative mishap because they're clearly dropping the ball with the Dark Order. Prove me wrong, AEW, and they did. It's a second wind. And everyone say hello to Anthony from Smart to Death. Wish him a happy Thanksgiving. He's here in the chat. I'm thrilled that they're reverse sailing on this, that they're turning everything around. They're straightening the ship and getting back into things. But I'll even go this far. I remember clearly in the build-up this spring for AEW, I clearly remember Cody Rhodes saying at some point, you know what? We're going to listen to the fans. And if something isn't working, if there's something that they don't like, we're going to spin this around and we're going to try something else. We're going to move on from it. We're going to try something else. And I remember people would give them shit because no one liked the librarians, and they kept saying, Cody, we don't like the librarians, get them off TV. And yet we keep on seeing the librarians. But look at what they're doing here. People didn't get into the Dark Order. So instead of just taking the Dark Order and setting them aside, putting them in a corner and saying, hey, so, yeah, we don't have anything creatively for you right now. So we're just going to keep you off TV. They're going to try something else. And that I can get behind. Not just because it's the Dark Order. I can get behind it as a show of a company putting their money where their mouth is, essentially. I liked it. Let's move on to some more warm soda here. Moving on to NXT. Donovan Dijak and Dominic Dijak and Keith Lee versus the Undisputed Era was not what we were expecting. But I really do think that Bobby Fish being removed from the match because of his injury and having Roderick Strong, who clearly wasn't ready to compete. I mean, he was in his trousers to fight the entire evening. I think that, sending them in such improvisational territory, they did their best. They managed, but I mean, it wasn't great. It was fine, And they did their best, and I appreciate it. It mustn't have been an easy situation, but you know, it was all right. It was all right. It was just an awful set of circumstances, but I was looking forward to this match. It just didn't quite connect for probably those reasons. By the way, Bobby Fish seems to be okay. According to reports that we're getting, they were afraid he was concussed, which doesn't seem to be the case. We'll see over the next few, but he's okay. Like, he's walking around and he's all right. But man, Bobby Fish and his injuries, they just have to stop. Poor guy. Poor guy. Let's give some cool beans to Dakota Kai versus Candice LeRae, which was one of the better matches on NXT last night. And what can we say about Dakota Kai's heel turn that hasn't already been said, other than it is fantastic? Chat, wake up. Tell me about Dakota Kai and how great she is. Tell me what your thoughts are, essentially. You don't necessarily have to agree with me. The thing is that it's so good, and she's leaning into it so well, and it's been built to perfection. And I love Candice's motivations here, where she was like, look, I was in the ring watching Tegan Nox, who's like a sister to me, getting beat up. And I'm going to be the pissed big sister in the ring, and I'm going to tear you apart, Dakota Kai. I thought it was fantastic. Such a great angle that they have going with Kai, who deserves to be put in some spotlight. Great stuff. Benoit in the chat says, and she kept the knee brace from the beatdown, which I loved, and I loved it too. And we are going to end it with some cool beans as well. Akira Tozawa versus Lio Rush. Man, I gotta tell you guys, for all the times that the times that I covered 205 Live for Fightful, Akira Tozawa has always been a part of 205 Live. He's been a cornerstone of the cruiserweight division and an underappreciated one. This is a guy who has speed, but he also has strength. He's a really strong guy, and he can do some amazing things, and we saw some of them this evening. We saw some of them 2 weeks ago on Raw when he has his match against, I want to say, Buddy Murphy. Who did he have a match against? I think so. And he's just chewing up the scenery. Like, he hasn't been on TV for a long time. And now it feels like every opportunity he has to jump on screen, he just goes for it. I love Akira Tozawa. And you put him in a match with Lio Rush, who I love as well, and who is a unique talent. He is a guy wired to do professional wrestling. And you get something as mind-blowing and fantastic and entertaining as the match we got between the both of them. It was fantastic. Tozawa hit a goddamn release German suplex from the apron to the floor on Lio Rush, effectively murdering Lio Rush. I'm kidding. But that was nuts. Akira Tozawa also did his running cannonball off the apron onto a dude on the floor, landing into the barricade. That's an insane spot. It terrifies me every time I see it. I love it. They struck hard on each other. Rush landed some hits. An elbow to the face at some point that was just crazy. And it took 2 split-legged frog splashes from Rush to put Tozawa away. I love this match. This was so good. Match of the night on NXT. That's for sure. Ooh, we covered a lot of ground here, ladies and gentlemen. But that's how we're going to wrap it up this week for the Weekly Wrestling Inspection. It never times perfectly with when I signal it. And sometimes there's like a 1.5 second delay, and sometimes it'll just go straight in the minute I cue it. Weird. Hey, if you're watching live right now, why don't you give the video a thumbs up, a like here on YouTube? That's fantastic. Or whatever way, if you're listening to a podcast, you can like the video as well. Leave a review. Those things always help. Just a quick reminder, once we're done with the stream here, we're going over to Patreon for everyone tonight. Free preview of my Patreon exclusive post stream called Warren is Off the Clock. And I'm going to be talking about the Erica Gimbal situation, the phony WWE stylist Twitter account that Kristen Ashley and I exposed as fraudulent. We're gonna talk about that some more, walk you through a bit what we did, and yeah, sort of like give the final word on it. So, and it's going to be, and we're offering that up as a free preview over on Patreon, patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. So tonight you don't have to be a Patreon to jump onto the post stream. Please join me. Please join me. But before we head on over there, just a couple of more things I want to talk about. I want to talk about Mauro Ranallo and Corey Graves. By now, you've all heard this was one of the low points for me on NXT. It's crazy because Mauro wasn't there. Just before we go into this, it's crazy how Mauro Ranallo's voice has become synonymous with NXT. And he hasn't been there since the onset. He's been there for maybe, I want to say 3 years. 2.5 to 3 years. But he's become synonymous with the brand. He was there in very, very crucial, formative years of the brand. And he's inseparable from it at this point. He really, really is. He went there when after leaving SmackDown. He was anchoring the SmackDown commentary table, and he, well, you know, it's storied, it's out there, the JBL stuff and the bullying, couldn't take it anymore, and then WWE hired him back to go to Full Sail. There was also there was a whole issue with the traveling. He didn't care for the traveling all that much, and his bouts with bipolar disease and depression are very well documented. As you know, Mauro Ranallo is a very strong voice for mental health because he suffers from it tremendously. Proof that even someone who has tremendous amount of success, who is highly regarded in his field, despite these accolades, can still suffer, can still feel depressed. Oftentimes, you know, people who do, you do hear about very famous people getting depressed, and you'll often hear a reaction to the effect of, that person has so much money and so much success, I would never be depressed. But that's not the point. It doesn't matter what your level of success is. Depression is not related to that. It is a health condition. It is a disease. Even though you're a millionaire, you can still have diabetes, you know? That has no... Financial situations, personal situations can exacerbate, but they're not necessarily cause and effect. And definitely success, power, fame, money doesn't have, it doesn't discriminate when it comes to mental health situations. But I digress here. This was a bit of a mess on Saturday. Your boy Corey Graves had tweeted, and I'm gonna skip over the main detail, or at least not go too much into the details to what led to it, because I'm pretty sure you've all heard the story by now. But Graves put out a tweet basically saying, criticizing Mauro Ranallo on air, saying, not on air, but on Twitter, that Ranallo wasn't leaving much wiggle room for Beth Phoenix and Nigel McGuinness to get a word in edgewise. This is part of Mauro's style, and he has been criticized it in the past for sure. So basically, he called him out on Twitter about it, which then caused Mauro Ranallo to delete his Twitter. By the way, fuck you for driving Mauro off of Twitter. And Mauro was supposed to call the NXT matches at Survivor Series. He didn't show up. He wasn't there. Michael Cole said that Ronaldo had blew his voice at TakeOver the night before. That was the greatest amount of bullshit I have ever heard in my life. And and basically over the past couple of days, apparently Mauro's condition has not been good. Dave Meltzer apparently has been in contact with people close to Ronaldo, saying that it's a day-to-day thing. WWE has even been in contact with Ronaldo's manager, Frank Shamrock. Ronaldo will return when he's capable of doing so. Apparently, even Corey Graves reached out to Frank Shamrock to explain himself, to talk about the situation. This is from Sean Ross Sapp, who got this information. Turns out that when Corey Graves asked Frank Shamrock how Mauro was doing, the conversation turned from pleasant to rather tense, and Frank Shamrock started demanding an apology from Corey Graves. Graves ended up apologizing on his After the Bell podcast, and basically said this, quote, "This past Saturday during the TakeOver War Games event, I sent out a tweet. It was an unpopular opinion, as I often do, with the intention of just stirring up a little controversy, maybe having some fun, maybe have something fun to talk about on TV or here on the show. It was maybe not the most professional way to go about things, and it was never meant to offend or disrespect or disparage anybody. That was never my intention. If it was taken as such, I apologize deeply. That was not my intention. I would never intentionally cause anybody undue stress, especially a coworker, so I apologize." Yes, it's a very half-hearted apology. Oh, beware of the apologies, folks, where people go, "Oh, well, if my words offended you, well, I'm sorry that my words offended you." Because that's not an apology. That's not how it works. Graves, Graves today put out a Twitter. He put out a tweet saying, "I'm going to fuck up." This is, again, I'm quoting. "I'm going to fuck up. I'm going to be wrong. I'm going to disappoint. I'm not perfect. I'm thankful for learning. I'm thankful for learning to embrace my flaws and learn from them. I'm thankful for those who know me." He also mentioned that 2019 was a hard year for him, but that he's learned a lot and he keeps learning. Now, I am all for people growing and learning from experiences. If Corey Graves is sincere, I want to like Corey Graves. You know what I mean? I kind of want to like him because I think he's entertaining. He's good at what he does. This not an apology, but like taking this situation upon himself and publicly telling us, I'm not perfect, but I'm going to keep learning and I want to grow. I can get behind this. But I'm going to hold Corey Graves to that tweet. Because the next time he pulls any type of garbage like that, such as punching down on fans, which is something that he did very recently to a female fan who was criticizing him on a Twitter video in her bedroom there was a Finn Balor plushie on her bed, and he started punching down at her because he didn't like what she was saying. If he is learning and growing, this is the kind of stuff he has to do. And because he essentially admitted in his apology when he says, it was an unpopular opinion, as I often do, with the intention of just stirring up a little controversy. That's essentially what a troll does. He's basically like outing himself as a troll. Anyone who goes out on Twitter and says, "Oh, I just like to light a fire and watch the world burn," that's being a troll. If he wants to improve off of that, I'm fine. I'm okay with that. But the one thing that is essential that we talk about, and we haven't been talking about, because we're all going to point fingers at Corey Graves. There's a substantial amount of blame to be put there because he put it out. He could have just held on to his comments and then go talk to his coworker, a coworker who has been calling MMA and boxing and combat sports for a long fucking time, whereas Corey Graves has been on color commentary for just about 3 years. By the way, the one thing we're not talking about is all the people who went and piled on Morrow. Because it's one thing to have a tweet put out at you from a coworker on social media, but it's another thing to enable these fucking tools to be like, yeah, Morrow sucks, and then decide to go pile up on him. Because there are people who don't like Morrow's style of calling. I personally adore it. I'll take it any time over Michael Cole, any time over Vic Joseph. Even though they're good at what they do, Morrow brings the passion. He brings the stories. And if if Corey Graves sets out the tweet, that's one thing. But everyone who went after Morrow because of this, who started piling on him, putting out tweets that, yeah, Morrow sucks, he's awful, he's terrible, so on and so forth, all these people have free will. None of them forced them to go after Morrow. They just did it out of their own volition. And to them, to every one of you who took an advantage of this situation to go and dump on this guy who does have mental health issues and who is a fucking wrestling play-by-play man, and you decided to shit on him, I say to you, fuck you, because you canceled out one of the most positive, influential voices on wrestling Twitter. And a guy who breaks out of wrestling Twitter and who has a true humanity and has contributions to give. You've taken that away from us. And no, that is not on Corey Graves. That's on everyone who had the free will to decide to go do what they did. I am a really big mental health advocate. So this situation particularly pisses me off. Because it happens every day that stars get tossed off, delete their accounts off of Instagram and Twitter. It happens, maybe not every day, but it happens frequently because they can't take the trolling anymore. They can't take the assholes. This is a loss. This is a loss. And there's only so much blame that by blaming Corey Graves, we're absolving all of the idiots. We really are. By just pointing everything on Corey Graves. Yes, he should have managed things very differently. Anywho. Those are my thoughts on the situation. Benoit says Corey's trying to get some edge since the new podcast started. J.S. Brown says, as someone who suffers from bipolar depression, I just want to say thank you, Warren. Look, you're welcome. But I mean, to me, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm just a guy with an opinion ultimately, and it just pisses me off. And Ray Deathray says, I believe Morrow even tweeted that he was going through a rough time just a bit before Corey made those comments. Like I said, I mean, if Graves wants to grow from this, fine, spectacular. I'm good with it. I'm going to keep him honest. You can Bet your bottom dollar on that. You can be sure of that. Kenny Omega, ladies and gentlemen. He's a wrestler. He's also an EVP of a company called All Elite Wrestling. Maybe you've heard about it. And recently, he was on the Wrestling Observer Radio. I'm talking a lot about Meltzer stuff this week, aren't I? I gotta remember where my bread is buttered. I'm kidding. I can talk about what I want, who I want. It's my show. Anywho, so Omega was on the Wrestling Observer, was on Wrestling Observer Radio this week, and he was addressing the criticisms that were being laid towards AEW regarding the women's division. I've been a very vocal criticizer of AEW's women's division, as any of you who watch me on a regular basis know. I'm not all too impressed with how they're handling things, for a bunch of reasons. So Omega went on the Observer to talk about the women's division. He says he's receptive to fans' frustration, basically, to the lack of time, and women as well, because it's still very thin. And he promised better things to come. This is a quote here, transcript that was done by our boys over at Fightful. I want the women to have the largest stage possible on Dynamite and Dark. I'm fighting for it every week for them to have more time. Cut mine. I don't care. Mine talking about his matches. When you have such a focus on the tag team title tournament, which took up so much time on each episode, it was 2-1 titles. I have to put the blame on myself because I had the angle with Jon Moxley as well. At the end of the day, there's only so much time in an episode. It's almost amazing how fast it gets eaten up. We haven't been able to focus on women as much as I'd like. Some of it has been availability. We have girls signed and hopping on board. I hate to say wait till 2020, but I can safely say that in 2020, there are going to be interesting and exciting signings that will shake up the division. As soon as we have a women's tag division, that will balance things more and give the women more of a stage. Once there's that thing for them to fight for, you're going to see more time devoted per episode for the women. Cool. I don't know why I've argued this before on the stream here, folks. These were all decisions that AEW made to not sign as many women, to make sure to not give them more matches. These are all decisions that they made to focus on the tag team division, to focus on other athletes. These are all decisions that they made. Omega is kind of addressing this, saying, we could have, but they didn't, but they could have. So at least he realizes that it's not like some of the bullshit answers that we get on YouTube where it's like, oh, well, they have to put this guy over. Oh, they have to do the tag team tournament. They have to focus on that. There's a pay-per-view coming up. Omega's clear saying, we just didn't do it. So I'm okay with him taking responsibility on that level. I don't know. Look, do we need a tag team women's? Before we even start talking about women's tag team titles, just give us women's matches. Omega also talked about recruiting female wrestlers from Japan. We have talent from all corners of the globe. One of my main focuses from the beginning is I wanted to show some of the Joshi talents from Japan that haven't had the opportunity to be seen on a global scale. There hasn't been much exposure of Stardom on a worldwide scale, but people know who they are mainly due to Kairi Sane and Io Shirai. Since their NXT debuts, people have dug a little deeper and gone back to the roots and seen what Stardom is all about. I'm sure they've gained some fans through that, but there are other styles of Joshi wrestling and other talent that people haven't seen that don't wrestle for Stardom. DDT. That was, he didn't say that. I said that. These are the people I want to introduce to the world. So, Omega loves Joshi wrestling. He's trained Riho. He's wrestled with her. against her. He this is to me, this is, I get what he's saying, and I appreciate what he's trying to accomplish here. Basically saying, we know there's a problem here, and we're moving forward with it. And all I can do is cross my fingers that he's being sincere with it. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of talk, because there's been a lot of talk regarding the AEW women's division, because they being the EVPs, the top brass of AEW, they have been telling us from the get-go, we're building a strong women's division. Women's wrestling is going to be important to us. We're going to put a focus on that. There hasn't been a focus on it. There just hasn't. Oh, we're going to do it in 2020. Okay. Again, I am willing to give the benefit of the doubt. But, once bitten, twice shy, right? I'm very weary. And I have no doubt that Kenny Omega is talking very earnestly and sincerely when he says, I want to put this stuff forward because it's important to me. I sincerely believe that. But between what he says and what he wants, what we're going to get, look, he said there's a bunch of women that are ready to jump on board that are going to shake things up. Fingers crossed. And over the past couple of weeks, if we're being fair here, there has been some exciting signings. Big Swole is she was signed. That's exciting. Chris Statlander ends up on AEW. I don't think she's been officially signed, but goddamn, that's a great addition to any women's division. There's still Mercedes Martinez out there. I know I'm a broken record, but she's still out there. Priscilla Kelly. There's a whole bunch of women that just aren't being used. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with this. I really, really am. But if this turns out to be more hot air, you can rest assured that I'm going to be the first in line to call them out on it. Because right now, I don't think they're doing a good job. I think they realize they're doing a bad job. Omega addressed it as such, but I also feel that they're trying harder on the shows now. And I think they're making smart decisions as to who they're putting forward. Taking Britt Baker away from the spotlight might be a good idea. I don't think Britt is ready for the position they want her to be in. They have a lot more accomplished talents in there, which means that she should not wrestle anymore, but maybe not in the spot that they would like her to be in. We'll see what happens. And I'm glad Omega took the time to say that. I really am. Gives me hope. Gives me hope moving forward. Hawkeye says in 2020, AEW started in September. That's not okay. Benoit says I'd see AEW work with Sendai girls. Yes. And Jason PS3 says they need their female talent to get over. Yes. And for that, they need to give their women talent on-screen time in compelling matches. That's what you generally need to do to get over in wrestling. Speaking of over, this stream is over, folks. We're going to wrap this one up. We're just about done. One last time, I want to remind you, soon after this, give me like 5 minutes to freshen up. I'm going to head on over to Patreon at patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes for a free, open to everyone post-show. Warren is off the clock, usually done for all the patrons. But tonight I'm opening it up as a free preview of what we have over on Patreon. patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. And I'm going to be talking about the Erica Gimbel situation that Kristen Ashley and I worked through to expose. It'll be my pleasure to talk about it. It was really, really exciting stuff and very compelling. So come and join me. We're going to go do that in a few minutes. And speaking of patrons, I want to thank the following patrons for their support of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Smart to Death Podcast, Ross McGee, Nick Wolf, Kristen Ashley, John Washaba, Jason Clay, Harmony, Ellen C, Big Paws on a Pup, JPQ, and Ben Parise. Thank you so much for your support of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. It means a great deal. And it means a great deal that everyone that did come out to watch the show here this evening did. And that always makes my heart sing. So come on over, patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. Otherwise, you know what? I'll just see you next time.